If you have heard about Netflix's award-winning miniseries, The Queen's Gambit, I believe the next event should interest you. Today, we are honored to be joined by the real-life strongest female chess player of all time, Judit Polgar. It's impossible to summarize Polgar's chess achievements in the space of a minute, so I chose one match that captures at least some of Polgar's outstanding talent. In 2002, Judit Polgar faced the Russian Garry Kasparov, widely considered the best player of all time. Back then, Russia dominated the world of chess, so much so that the tournament that year was Russia versus rest of the world. This did not intimidate Polgar. In that very match, Judit Polgar became the first woman to beat Kasparov in his prime, a feat only a handful of players have completed. After retiring from chess, she split her time between coaching the Hungarian national men's team and working on the Judit Polgar Chess Foundation, a non-profit aiming to develop cognitive skills through chess. She is also well placed to advocate for the equal representation of women in chess and beyond, inspiring many to reach their highest potential. To interview Polgar and learn more about her phenomenal career, we are also joined by the prominent chess expert and commentator, Leoncho Garcia. Garcia has covered multiple tournaments in his career and is a true chess enthusiast. We will again be taking questions for the Q&A via Slido. Without further ado, we are honored to welcome Judit Polgar and Leoncho Garcia.
Hello. Thank you, Marius, for your very kind introduction. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. As Marius indicated, Judit Polgar is all-time best female chess player, the only woman who has been in the top 10 along 1,500 years of chess documented history. But she's a fascinating character for reasons which go far beyond the world of chess. She and her two sisters, Susan and Sophie, were the subject of a very interesting educational experiment. And Judit is also one of the most intelligent persons I met during my 38 years as a professional journalist. Good afternoon, Judit.
Hi, thank you very much for the very nice introduction. Welcome, everybody.
I guess most of our audience is right now connecting you with the Queens Gambit series, and more specifically with its main character, Beth Harmon, lying in bed, looking to the ceiling, where she imagines chess game position with many pieces moving around and calculating variations. Is there any truth on that in your case?
Actually, it is something that I was very happy about, that this was done in the series of Queen's Gambit, because it is something very normal for chess players, that we either close our eyes and just play the moves in our head, or for example, we are walking around after the game or before the game with some of our colleagues or trainers and analyzing positions. And exactly that is how it is in our brain, that we visualize the chess pieces, how they are moving, but we don't have a real chessboard ahead of us. And it can be done easily because we are working and studying so many hours, the players, that it comes very easy.
Yeah, as you say, what we are talking about is very related to blindfold chess. This means playing one game or several games simultaneously, memorizing every piece in every board for hours. And now I'm going to tell you something which comes with a warning for those spectators who are suffering some heart disease, because it is very impressive. The world record of simultaneous games is 48 by the American Grandmaster Teimour Gareyev, born in Uzbekistan. It took 23 hours in a row, 35 wins, 7 draws, and 6 losses. As far as I know, Judit, there are 2 ways to play blindfold chess: based on photographic memory, which means seeing a clear picture of the whole position in your mind, or based on logical memory, which means seeing just the most important pieces, and then you can more or less deduct where the others are by connections of defense, attack, etc. I guess, Judith, correct me if I am wrong, your memory is photographic.
Absolutely, you're correct. I have absolutely photographic visual memory, and obviously I was always that's how I was playing blind games. And also, I mean, to play a blind game is one thing, but when you play at the board, it is also something that you have to be using all the time, not the whole game, but also calculating ahead some of the variations and some deviations of the lines. So it means that you always have to be ready to train your brain and to really do that exercise at the board during the chess game, which is running at the moment.
Mm-hmm. Now, nature or nurture? Your education, together with your 2 older sisters, was very, very special, as I said. Homeschooling, going to the school only for exams, including chess as an important subject. It is significant to underline that both your mother, Clara, and your father, Laszlo, were professional educators and were already thinking on the experiment before getting married. Now, 40 years after the beginning of that experiment, how do you feel about it?
Well, first of all, I'm saying it more that my parents thought of a very unique lifestyle, which actually my father thought of before meeting my mother. And when he met my mom, he was explaining to her that he's looking for a wife who is a partner in this challenge, that his kids, whether they are boy or girls, he wants them not to go to school and focusing, specializing on one specific field. And then somehow they got together, they got married with my mom, and Susan, the oldest of the 3 of us, she's 7 years older than I am. When she was about 4 years old, she started to play chess. She found it in a box at home. And then that was it. She was also very good in mathematics, but my father thought, okay, she's 4, she's very good in both, so it's time to decide. And that's how she started to play chess. And when I was born 7 years later, in my case, my parents knew exactly that I should be a chess champion.
Mm-hmm. But I think it is important to underline, how did you balance the lack of social life as you were not going to a school on a daily basis? I think traveling is the best school of life. I have visited nearly 100 countries so far. You started traveling in your childhood, and I wonder if that was one of the key points. What do you think?
I think there are many crucial aspects in my education. First of all, that my parents they are both teachers. This was something very special, very unique. This way, they are at the same time they were my parents. They are my parents, but at the same time they were always coaching us mentally, mentoring us all the time. Their chess level is not so good. So this is something not to be neglected, that they are both teachers. Secondly, that the family warm atmosphere that a child is living at home, because we were mostly at home. We were only going to take exams to the school, and we were traveling for chess tournaments. I think it's very important that whatever happens, daily basis, you always have someone around. But I can say that sometimes maybe they were around too much, but they were always there when we needed help, or they were always very supportive. And also that so they were doing their work by being teachers. So it was also very difficult for them, in the other hand. But traveling is something essential generally in growing up for kids. This is also something I was very much focusing on with my kids, that they get to know the world, to understand that everybody is different, but in some ways everybody is the same. You learn a lot of tolerance, acceptance, to adjust yourself, to be resilient in many, many ways. So this is obviously makes a great deal of my education. But I think what was also very important, that they were always trying to keep us, me and my sisters also, to stay on the ground, no matter how good or how fantastic our results was. They were celebrating and happy, but the next day you go home and we continue learning and studying chess. So it was somehow a great balance between my father determination about the special education and my mother being there as a mother who was taking care of everything else. Like we lived in a very modest environment, but still we always had gas, and we didn't have a car, we were not living in the best areas. So there was a great, incredible balance between my mom and my dad, how my father was doing the more critical things and the fighting, because in Hungary, we did not have that support which we wanted to. Actually, they were very much criticizing the way my parents were raising me and my sisters. So they had a lot of difficulties and challenges, but I think the harmony made it possible. And you have to imagine it, I think, as a little startup company. That's what we were, because we were also extremely happy for each other's result. No matter whether it was me or Susan or Sophia made some great result, it was somehow the feeling it was the same as I would have been doing it.
Mm-hmm. Then if you think the balance of that very special educational experiment was a positive one, why you are not repeating the experiment with your children?
I think there are different reasons for that, and I have to tell you the truth that you're not the first one asking this.
Yes,
And of course, when me and my husband got there, that the first child, Oliver, was like 3.5. It was, of course, a question whether how to raise him and my daughter Hannah. But if you think about it, my parents were living in very modest environment. They are both teachers. They have great ideas, and they took it as a great challenge from professional point of view, and a huge belief and determination on specializing their three daughters. When I became a parent, I had a great career as a chess player still. I was mainly a professional chess player. My husband is an animal doctor, so we both have a very serious profession. He has his own clinic. So we were not ready to mentor our children, I think, the same determination 24/7 all the time, giving up our own things. I don't want to say that we were selfish from this point of view, but I think we just choose another way also, that where they were born. I mean, we are already, both we are successful, so financially we can give much more opportunities for our children. But there are some things, of course, which are very important from the very beginning, for them to travel a lot, to learn languages. Like, for example, with my kids, from their first few days, they had a Spanish-speaking nanny. They were going to international kindergarten. They speak English. And generally speaking, obviously, I bring a lot, and my husband also from his home, which we implement in the education of our kids. But I can't say myself that I'm proud of it that they are going to school, because I think I'm sharing this idea with my father that the institute of school is not necessarily positive, especially definitely not positive for every child. Many people say that the social element of school is so important, and I might be arguing on this. So I think every person, every couple, they make a decision how to raise their kids, but it's also when you send them to kindergarten or later on to school, it's like pushing a little bit away the responsibility. Of course, if someone is homeschooled, you have to pay much more attention. You have to be arranging all the academic knowledge, what he or she will be learning. It's a completely different life. And I think a parent who decide to have homeschooling for their children, they have to be much more active and much more dedicated to the everyday life of the kids. But I think it's still very manageable. So it's a question what kind of parents you are, which direction you want your kids to be developing. But I believe there is no only one way to be happy and successful for kids.
So if I understand you well, you think that we need a specific school for parents in the current world?
Well, I do believe that that would be one of the most important subject in university years, probably. That it is something I really miss from many educational systems. I think generally to give much more practical knowledge and practical things what the kids and youngsters can use in their everyday life. And sorry. I do believe that that would be a great idea, yes, to have some education for parents, because I think it's definitely or one of the most difficult thing to do.
By the way, talking now about you as a mother, how difficult it was for you being a mother of two kids and a top chess player at the same time?
It was a huge challenge for me. I was very much looking forward to the period when I was pregnant and playing in some competitions. Though I was not playing, only very few events, team matches, because I didn't have such an easy period then. So it was a great challenge when Oliver was born, and he was 5 months old when I went to the big tournament of Vacanze, which is the Wimbledon of chess, we can say. So mainly the top players, male competitors were there. In one hand, it was very difficult. In other hand, it was something relaxation. And probably some of the people of the audience might share the same. When you go to work and actually you go there, you feel like you're relaxing because you don't have to wake up in the middle of the night. So when I went to the tournament, I had quiet nights. I could take a quiet breakfast, talk to other people, just focus on the game, which was of course extremely difficult. And but I could manage. But I have to say that obviously the priorities in my life have been changing, which is essential when you are on a highest level athlete. Because before that, whatever I was doing in my life, going to a movie theater or taking a walk, doing some sports, everything was practically in order to have a good timing when I go to a chess competition. So it was very challenging, but I did not stop and retire from chess because of my kids.
Now, let's talk about other subjects. For instance, I presume you are following the international news on a daily basis. If that is the case, how do you analyze Brexit from a chess strategy point of view? Was that a good plan made in the right order?
Well, I don't like to get involved in politics in any way, I think. But in chess, it's something that you have to be prepared in many, many, many moves in advance. And you have to have the prepared and know the whole picture. And I believe that politics, generally speaking, it's much more about emotional influencing people and deciding it than a rational way of thinking. So it is, for me, it's very difficult to understand politics, I must say, and sometimes it's very sad also. As when I was playing chess, I always knew what is really happening around the chessboard, and even if I lost the game or whatever happened, it was extremely essential and important to be very self-critical, and you couldn't lie to yourself and you couldn't lie to your opponent either because the results were so obvious. Of course, in politics, you have a much more bigger responsibility, and you have to see a much, much, much bigger picture as a whole. But I do hope that politics can be somehow with different rules and a more positive game.
Mhm. Chess and AI is a fascinating subject, in my opinion. I will make a short introduction about that. Chess has been an experimental field for artificial intelligence that was decided about 75 years ago by two key people in the AI history, IA history. Alan Turing and Claude Shannon. Their idea was as follows. For a human mind, chess is infinite because the number of possible games, and this is another warning for heart disease spectators, is 1 followed by 123 zeros. This number is much bigger than the number of atoms in the known universe, which is 1 followed by 80 zeros. But this number is finite for the computers. Therefore, if a computer beats the world chess champion one day, all the huge scientific knowledge learned during that process will be very useful in other scientific fields. Well, they were right, Alan Turing and Claude Shannon, but it took 50 years to achieve that goal. In 1997, Garry Kasparov was defeated by Deep Blue, and then IBM implemented that knowledge in different fields related to molecular calculation, like a very complex medication, agriculture planning, weather forecast, stock exchange, etc. Judith, you have been working on chess with computers in a very intense way every day for many years. Therefore, I'm sure you can explain this connection between human brain and computer's brain much better than me.
Well, it was a huge change in my professional life when in the early 90s I got my first laptop, and we had a database of 3,000 games, and it was amazing. But shortly after that, few years later, and by now we have more than 15 million games in a database, and we do use a lot of different kind of engines which restructure the whole thinking, I think, of the top players, and also obviously the training methods, the routine, because most of the top players, they have their computers either at home or remotely, which is working 24/7 definitely. But when I was growing up and I developed my chess skills, my strengths was then and also after that the middle part of the game, where I could be very creative and make combinations in a much deeper level than some of my other colleagues. So that was something important. When the computer analyzing engines came into the picture, I was already on the top 30 or something. No, it then yeah, something like that, top 30 or something in the world. It was very difficult for me to adjust to it because creativity obviously means that you make a lot of mistakes. There are a lot of holes and you can make a lot of nice combinations, ideas, but unfortunately with the engines, without any emotional feelings, it is just pinpointing your mistake in a fraction of a second, which definitely not improve my self-confidence. And so this was a very difficult thing for me to adjust myself using the engines and double check my thoughts on that. So by now, all players, they have some ideas, but usually they don't trust it. They go immediately for the computer and checking it. And in home preparation of the opening phase of the game, usually players are having some ideas, but more they are the boss. They are directing the engines, where to dig, where to look for new ideas. And by now, the professional's best friend, kind of, the engine, who is going to be telling the lines, whether it's good or bad direction, because it also evaluates it. And of course, one of the biggest happenings was in 2017, I think, when AlphaZero was becoming the self-learning machine, which taught itself within few hours, which was developed by DeepMind. And Demis Hassabis, who was actually, he was a competitor of mine when I was 12 or something like that. And he told me that actually he partly stopped playing chess due to me, because he was number 2 in the world. I was number 1, but I was too much ahead of him. So I'm very proud of that he went to this direction and really made some fantastic development in artificial intelligence, which actually was up to today. It's really amazing for us chess players. And we see the games which was played, and even the world champion is openly saying how much he learned from these games and ideas and strategies. And we can say that the AlphaZero is capable of sacrificing some material, giving up something in order that, let's say, 30 or 40 moves is going to be giving extra opportunities and win the game. But the main thing is that chess was only a tool for developing a very special self-learning machine, which obviously can be used for much more important things, as you mentioned in scientific research, health, and other topics. So for me, it was always amazing to follow how chess and machine learning, computers, and engines are developing.
Mm-hmm. In my opinion, more people are thinking less and less in the current world. We have many different reasons for that. For instance, the bad use of social networks, the very low quality of many TV programs, the inequality growing very much in the last years in many countries. Therefore, Judith, do we need a thinking game more than ever before?
Well, absolutely. I believe that chess is something that gives a lot to society, for whether, no matter in what age group we're thinking about. It gives a great opportunity for people to socialize, to play games, as it is very important for children's development. But I think also when you're older, you like to play games. Obviously, you don't like to lose. So this is something that can stop people challenging themselves. But I know a lot of people who are middle-aged or older who also start to play chess, especially now with the Queen's Gambit. There are huge growth in people who wants to get familiar with this game. And I think it is going to stay this way, and we are going to have more and more people who are curious about the game. But many people used to say that, wow, chess is so difficult. I cannot do it. There, it's only for the smart people. And in one hand, you can say, yes, if you want to become world champion or on a very high level, obviously it's extremely difficult, like anything else. But if you just want to enjoy the game, you can spend not so many hours. That the most important thing is that you find an opponent to play with who is the same level as you are.
Mm-hmm. By the way, since you announced your retirement from competitive chess in 2014, you are working very hard on chess as an educational tool, and mainly through your own foundation, the Judit Polgar Foundation. The educational power of chess is supported by several robust scientific studies. Can you summarize why is it so good for children?
Yes, I started to get involved in educational chess when my kids were in kindergarten age. And I knew exactly that my kids have to be playing the game. And I started to develop a book with my sister. She's a graphic designer, and we made a booklet for the kindergarten where my kids were going. And then we started to work together, my foundation, with some of very dedicated people. And we developed our own program with using chess as a tool for kids' development for everyday life. And there are different ways of using chess for education. I just like to highlight two ways. Obviously, there are chess coaches who have some pedagogical skills, and they can make kids extremely fanatic and enthusiastic about the game of chess, taking the chessboard, the chess pieces, telling stories, and showing the exciting patterns and ideas on the chessboard. But there is another way doing it, using it for educators, for teachers, school educators, elementary school, and also preschool, early age. And it will be very surprising probably for the audience if I say that already in some places they're using chess to metaphor for life as early as age 2. I have my program starting for kids from age 4 until age 10. But it's very important because in one hand it's a difficult game, but if you take it apart to the smallest parts of the game, you can use it for many different things in chess. For example, the coordinates, obviously, we are using. We have, for example, a chess palace where they have to go. So it gives extra motivation for the kids. The values of the chess pieces gives a lot of math and logical thinking connection to chess. They can play in groups. You can not only motivate, but encourage kids to be playing, to be more respectful to each other. And also it gives a lot of motivational tool for the teacher, because they can teach the kids through the elements of chess. These kids are not necessarily going to be good chess players, but they learn the basics of the rules of chess. But they can learn a lot of different things on diagonals, on algorithmic things, fine motoric skills, and also our experiences that by having chess in the classroom, it gives so much motivation that the most motivated and the best kid, between him or her and the lowest potentially clever kid, or I don't know how to say it, it gets smaller, the difference, because the kids can have very positive playing and learning experience. So they also get a positive feedback.
Mm-hmm. Talking to you is so interesting that I could keep asking questions for another 100 hours, but this is my last one before go into the spectators' questions. My last question is very fresh news, actually. A couple of weeks ago, you signed a contract with Chess24, one of the leading online chess platforms. Your new position there is called Educational Ambassador. What is it about?
Well, actually, the Play Magnus Group is a company who is having a lot of different segments of creating chess for learning, for watching, for studying, for enjoyment, for entertainment. And one is Chess24, other Chessable. There are different areas where they try to develop all kind of tools for the people who are really starting from scratch, from the very zero, but also for the people who are on the very elite. And what it means that I'm educational ambassador of the group is that I'm working on educational chess for like 8 years already. So I'm very much involved in Hungary in the educational activities I'm doing, but also I do quite a lot of motivational talk, and I also going to have more educational materials for learning, for studying, for youth children. And also we are going to be having a tournament series probably, which is more details will be announced shortly, maybe this week or next week, where I'm also going to be focusing, obviously, as I did in the previous years, about the youth talents generally, but also the gender issues, which is also something very important for me.
Mm-hmm. The first question coming from our distinguished audience, do you think freedom of choice is compromised when parents decide to impose future career goals on their children?
I think this is a very difficult question, whether, of course, my parents were attacked with this many times, that whether do you have the right to decide for your child. And I think it is a very tricky question, because I'm saying that I can't say anything bad that my parents decided this way. I think parents do have the choice, and I think they have to make a choice in many different ways according to the circumstances they have, because it is obvious that all the parents would like to have the best for their children, but the circumstances makes a huge difference. And I can't say with 100% what is better, this or that, or how do you raise your child. But one thing is sure, that if you give a lot of love and you pay attention, then that's the most important thing, I believe. I've seen so many children suffering in school and suffering in life by living their routine life, which is expected from the parents to make their life that way, that I think it's a very sensitive thing. I think every parents have to be really careful on thinking how to do the raising of children. I mean, just by choosing a school, choosing a kindergarten, you have to follow how your kid is developing, right? You always have to make a decision, and no matter what decision you make, you will have to be very resilient in reviewing it. Is it good? Is it developing? Is it good? Because for some kids, the very difficult schools can develop and make them stronger, and some they don't. They can't stand it. So I think for parents, the most important thing to follow the road of the kids to really be able to react if something negative or positive happens.
Mm-hmm. A very different question. Who do you think is the greatest chess player of all time?
It is very difficult to answer on that question because, first of all, because when you live in different times, you have different challenges and different opponents and different demands from yourself and different tools and books and everything. Obviously, for me, Garry Kasparov was for many years the best, maybe. Obviously, Fischer was also somewhat who we can say the best. But it's very difficult for me to say because I want to see the personality as a human being as a whole. And that's why it's very difficult. You have to be separating. In Fischer's case, for example, he was so sick in his mind, but he was such a genius on the chessboard. And I must say that Magnus Carlsen is getting there, I think, to be part of one of the candidates, because I think every world champion had different personality, different things that he improved in the chess world and what he could give to the chess world. And from this point of view, I think Magnus is really from this generation who is very open, very social. In the beginning, when he was a kid, he was not so social, but now he's very open and very honest. So I like him also as a world champion a lot. Usually before him, especially up to Kasparov, like Kasparov, Karpov, and the previous world champions, they were very much not giving away any secrets, kind of. So they were always hiding what they think, what they plan. And from this point of view, Magnus, I like pretty much that he's very open.
Mm-hmm. The next question is, do you think the rise of online chess and shorter games has created a downfall of the sport?
Well, last year was a huge turnover for chess, but it was not from nothing. Obviously, chess had about a decade of past being online actively, and I believe that this is what was happening in 2020, that practically there were almost no single tournament in real life. It made all the companies who are involved on online chess activities, games, and tournaments, they improved a lot in covering it to people who are not playing chess, for amateurs, and also to make it as professional as possible for different levels also. That is something very important. And but I'm pretty sure that when we are ready to go back to the over-the-board competitions, we're definitely going to have a hybrid life for the chess community, because this is something we have to keep what we gained from that and go back over the board, because psychological part, obviously, it's there.
Mm-hmm. Just to add something from my side, among all the sports recognized by the Olympic Committee, chess is the only one, together with bridge, which can be played through the internet. So I guess this is the main reason of why before the Queens Gambit series, chess was already became very popular, had another already a boom during the pandemic, right?
Well, absolutely. I completely agree with you.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Did the pressure of the game motivate you, or did you have special mechanisms to deal with high stress situations?
I think my character suited very much for competitive chess, and I think also this is one of the reasons why I reached the highest results comparing to my sisters. Because there were many challenges over the board, the reactions by my opponents, or reactions regarding my result. If I won a tournament, I won a game. And the critics, what they said, oh, she was only lucky. okay, it happened on this tournament, but okay, she's going to get in love when she's 18, 19, and then we can forget about her and so on. But those remarks, mainly 99%, they were much more encouraging for me than discouraging in my career.
Regarding to that, how was your strategy to deal with time travel?
I was not a time travel player at all. And actually time travel means that when you have, let's say, 10 or 15 moves that you have to be making, let's say, in 1 minute, right? And there are people who are time travel players, even the highest competitors, but actually that's generally not a good sign, because it means it's either you did not make your homework, or moreover you have some problem in decision making process, and you're double checking, triple checking everything. So I was very much focused not to have not to be in time travel. There were sometimes later on towards the end of my career that I was in time travel, but I know exactly that that's the reason I had it, because I was not sure of myself. So you didn't trust yourself, and when you can't afford it to spend double, triple checking in every variation.
Why do you think Russia and Soviet Union were able to dominate the chess world for so long?
Because they were so damn good. They had so many strong players. The chess players, chess grandmasters, were respected very, very much. It is clear that if somebody was a grandmaster, they had a very unique and very special life. I know this because I had a Soviet trainer, and he told me that obviously to become a chess player, it was something you're more than others, and also you could even travel sometimes abroad, and you had a great life, and they had a great tradition also in that sport. And then later on, this was extremely difficult for those people when the Soviet Union broke apart, and many of the people defected to other countries, and actually they had to realize that how much chess was not respected in other countries, or many other countries. They were kind of nobodies. So that was a huge change. But in Soviet Union, it was really a very respected sport. And obviously Fischer Spassky back 72, it gave even extra motion to it. Even now, there are a lot of great players in Russia and other countries like Ukraine and Belarus and other countries. But I think the great tradition and the respect for the players who were good.
I can add some figures. Soviet Union had 247 million inhabitants. Among them, 5 million were registered chess players, and 50 million were chess amateurs, approximately. Next question.
Well, maybe now it's India can follow up.
Precisely, yes, that's the point, yeah. What steps need to be taken in order for more females to be represented in chess?
Well, it's a complicated thing. With you, Leoncho, we discuss this sometimes, and of course, I got this question tons of times. It is a very complicated question. I think one of the main problem comes from the society generally, because there are different expectations from a girl who is 7 years old and talented, has the same talent as a boy. The coach will be saying to a boy that, wow, you're so talented, you might be even beating Magnus Carlsen one day. If there is a girl with exactly the same talent, the same vision on the chessboard, which is when they are 7, obviously they can be good, but not that good. Still, the coach will be saying, wow, you can be world champion between ladies. I mean, let's face it, right now, there's only one woman who is in the top 100. She's, I think, number 85 or something like that. And the next lady is maybe in the 200. So this is a problem, that you give different expectations from girls. Let me tell you a story about that. My daughter and I went to the mother of my husband, and she's over 70, and obviously she loves my children, and she likes to tell all kind of nice things, and she's very proud of them. My daughter is dancing, and she has good grades in school. And then when we visit, she says, well, you know, oh, Hannah, you're so charming. You're so beautiful and good in dancing. And on the top of it, you're even clever. And she had saying this with so much love and admiration and proudness and everything. And I was standing next to Hannah, and I said, yeah, this is all wonderful what you said, but I think completely the same way, but the other order. So I'm saying that she's very clever, not a genius, but she's clever. She has good grades. You're cute and nice personality. And on top of it, if you're pretty, it's nice. And I think it goes in many different occasions, that simply the expectations and why the girls get the positive feedback, whether it's a mother, father, grandparents, coaches, and different segments of the society. It makes a little different way of growing up and building their career and mindset.
Yeah, if I have to summarize such a very complicated subject with only one word, that word will be education. And our next question, the penultimate one, is also going in the same direction. It says, have you found it harder to be recognized as intelligent, being a woman, especially as the smartest person in the room? Did chess achievements help?
Sorry, if my achievements helped in...
There are three questions in one. It says, have you found it harder to be recognized as intelligent, being a woman?
Well, obviously, I can say that that if I would have been a boy, I would have acknowledged with my talent much faster. I had to prove myself in much more occasions.
Mm-hmm. And the last question requires a short answer, I guess. Who will win today, Garry Kasparov or Judit Polgar?
Well, we are both old-timers in some way, and we are rusty. So, well, it would be a fun challenge probably, and you never know. We may even meet each other over the board, but it would be interesting, not from the sporting aspect, I think, because we both incredibly love the game, and we were so much into it that we cannot take it so seriously, because it is something also very hard for a top athlete, and not only for a top athlete. I think for everybody who is who was on a very high level, let's say a professor or a doctor retiring, that's the most difficult to handle, that you're not your best anymore and you can be much lower in strengths. So if I would be playing with Garry, obviously I think both of us would have to have some humor in it, some irony, and be very realistic that our name is the same, but our strengths is by far not there. Because in a sportive competition, there are a lot of, obviously we know a lot still about chess itself, but to compete, that's a completely different story.
I don't know. I don't know if you agree with me, but according to the high quality of the questions coming from our spectators, I think that they do not belong that group I mentioned before of people thinking less and less. Just on the contrary, okay?
No, I think we are very much on the right place from this perspective. There are thinkers all over here.
Thank you very much, Judith. Thank you very much to everybody.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much to the two of you. It was really inspiring to listen to Judit Polgar, and thank you to Leoncio Garcia for his exciting questions. It was a pleasure to host the first ever chess player to attend WES, and what a way to do it with the best female chess player of all time. By the way, we'd love to see the match against Kasparov sometime, so I hope it happens. Well, thank you very much to the both of you, and thank you very much for attending the Warwick Economics Summit.
Thank you.
All the best. Bye.
Bye-bye.